Welcome to the GM's Book Club, a podcast where we take a role-playing game, read it cover to cover, rate, review, and I can't remember what the third word was, but it says discuss. Oh, recount. There you go. Recount what we think about it. Hello again, friends. Welcome back to...
I just had an idea, though, what we should have done. Is I should have gone...
Oh, done the music as you were going to... Yeah. It makes it more dramatic.
Welcome
to Jurassic Park. No.
Jurassic Park.
With me, as always, is my wonderful co-host Hamilton. It's our final pick for this round. I know we've completed this. This is the sixth one that we did our little shortlist ages and ages ago. We finally got through all six, which is exciting. We'll see how this episode goes, naturally. But
yeah, let's see if we do this again. I think we want to.
I think we do. We both were like, God, we do enjoy reading other books and discussing what we like about them. Who knew? So, Hamilton, what are we talking about today? What is the final book in the GM's Book Club for this round
of this series? We've already decided what we're doing next time. Yeah. We are talking about Bladerunner.
Yes, by the wonderful Free League, as we were saying. We picked quite a few Free League books. To be fair, we are big fans of Free League, even though we rip them to shreds on various things. But yeah,
we do.
Bladerunner, a neo-noir wonderland that will take your breath away one way or the other, it says on the blurb at the back. Yeah, I mean, I love Bladerunner. It's one of my mum's favorite films of all time, and I remember watching the various different cuts on the TV. And I gather you are also a Bladerunner fan as well.
Yeah, it's actually weirdly one of my dad's favourite movies as well.
We all go to the same film club as kids.
Maybe,
I don't know.
Maybe they did. Yeah, no, definitely. And yeah, I've watched it countless times with and without voiceover, depending on the different cuts, as you said. I'm also a fan of the new one. I think that was one of the few repeats that's actually pretty decent, I'd say.
Yeah,
personally.
I agree. I think as much as I always have to come in here and go like, women don't come out of it very well. But like, yes, I mean, that's always going. That's unfortunately that's always going to happen. I think in these kinds of games. But I think the world it gives, this sort of like, and the story build that it builds up from it, and how it connects to possibly other franchises. You know, cough cough, Alien. We have so much to go on, and it's almost like you can go from one to another, and it just feels so sci-fi and so gritty, but in a way that sci-fi, when you think of sci-fi, you don't necessarily think of it like that. Sometimes you think sci-fi is like, oh, it's all pretty and futuristic, and then this is like, no, dystopian, but everything's still going, that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great world. I mean, the original Philip K. Dick book is great as well. It's different from that. I read Man in High Castle as well, another great book by him, and like. Great book. And yeah, but what the films did to bring that super noir grittiness and the same janky tech that's born from Star Wars and lives in Alien and comes to life in Blade Runner is like really great and is why it's so everlasting, because it's just like it's got all the fundamentals of the sort of noir humanity, which is something that I will talk about in this RPG as like something I think makes great sci-fi is the fact that I will completely bastardize this phrase, but the saying that stories sci-fi should talk more about the present than it does about the future, basically. And one of the things that I think a lot of people are finding is that we all sat probably in like the early 2000s saying we were all promised jetpacks, where's all our future coming, that we were all sent, and then slowly realizing that no, all the bad stuff is just coming 20 years later. Just wait 20 years and then all those movies will come true, but in all the worst possible ways, like how the Matrix is now like saying humanity peaked in society in the late 90s, and everyone's now going, we missed the 90s.
Yeah, we do miss the 90s. Yeah,
so they had a good balance of things, but no, it's everlasting. I think it's one of the fundamental like top pieces of media in the world, isn't it?
And especially because it's set in 2039, which is not too far off when we think about it, which is also depressing when you do think about it.
Well, the original movie was 2019.
2019, yes, sorry. But this particular, the RPG, sorry, I'm saying here, is LA 2039. But yeah, I think a lot of things that we can see now, so for example, actual androids that are being made to be very human-like, to serve everyone's whims. It's just like, well, this feels very much like the Nexus models all slowly coming together. Obviously, I know AI is always prevalent in anything we talk about these days, so all of it feels very, again, maybe even you think of like Terminator films. Again, that's an idea of, so it's all coming to present. Now, whether or not you want to engage in that sort of thing, it's completely up to you. But what I like about Blade Runner, first and foremost, and I say sci-fi is obviously like that's the genre, but ultimately I'm like, it's a mystery game, it's a detective game.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's not like horror or anything like that. And like you said, it has that wonderful clunky architecture and aesthetic, even though you've got the beautiful bright lights and this neon signs and the sort of like advertisements and stuff. Ultimately, it's gritty and grim and desolate if you are on Earth specifically, because it's just like you said, like we've not moved to the fancy cool, like everything sleek model towers or anything like that because of the big thing that happens in the story of the actual setting of this big sort of EMP bomb that wipes out quite a lot of everyone's data, and then everyone's just trying to recover from that. And it's just so interesting because again, that's something that, I mean, we've seen cyber attacks on various Marks and Spencer's is what I remember, which I know is maybe not as important.
Well, like the BA one that happened like earlier in the year or whenever it was, flights were all delayed. Yeah, and the blackout that happened in Spain and Portugal in the Iberian Peninsula only this year as well for like 3 days, and everyone was back to like, and it's an reoccurring issue that's probably only going to get worse. But it's also the fact that it really heightens on all the things that are coming to fruition of like, corporate greed and the disparity between classes. And as you said, like the city is expressed as these high-rise elements that rise above the murkiness of the sort of Coruscant as well comes to mind. Ideas of like the many levels that go all the way down to the sort of warrens of old buildings that are being built upon. I've used this word a couple of times, I think, on the channel as one of my favorite architecture words of palimpsest. Palimpsest with its PALMPSEST, which is the layering of time on top of one another. And one of the greatest examples of that in architecture is there's a temple in Rome, and I might have mentioned this before on the show, but I can't remember, where they built right now on the ground floor. If you go at level grade now, you go into a sort of late Renaissance. It's not even it's later, about an 18th century chapel, like a church, like a Christian church. When you go down one level, you go into a mid 14th century church, which is built on top of. If you go down another level, you get to like an 11th century church. And then they dug in the basement and found a temple to Minerva from Roman times underneath it. There's like 4 layers of church, and you can keep going down all the way. And so that's palimpsest in it. But it's kind of like that, is this idea of like the constant layering of life on top of each other, and this you experience in this way of like, and it talks about it in the book. And I remember when we were running the game talking about there's this datum line basically in the city where suddenly you transition from this realm of like clunky overwrought pipe work and staircases running over each other, and then suddenly there's like basically a layer, and then from then on there's these big cool fancy flats, and everyone has like helicopter pads, and it's all living at this different level. So there's so much aesthetic to this that's it's grounded in these kind of ideologies, which is quite interesting.
And I think as well, because like I said, I'm always going to mention Alien, unfortunately, in respect to this as well. Because Alien has similar themes, except obviously that is in outer space on hostile planets. And I think it's what's interesting is obviously the big theme in Alien is that obviously the clues in the title, Alien, is that's what you're going to face, or what you think is a big bad, but ultimately it's these corporations fighting over things. But then similarly in Blade Runner, I mean, clues in the title, Blade Runner, but you are part of the system itself. You are a similar pawn that, as you would be in Alien. If you're a Marine, if you're a colonist or anything like that, you're having to survive, eke out a living between these great big corporations. And the same thing here, except with Blade Runner, you are playing a detective who's working for the LAPD, and you're just having to keep going with the system to find out, and really hone down, not about like how you survive, but like your own morals, which I think is something really interesting to play into, and just with all that history. So I will say, if you've never seen any Blade Runner, which I appreciate could be quite a few people because it might not be their thing, I will say the actual primer, the first chapter in the core book for this is a really good summary. I think we've talked about it before, about other IPs, certainly for Free League, where you go, well, I don't need this. I've got an idea what it is. I think it's such a good, I think it's better than the Alien summary in the core book because it's just condenses it down into exact things you need. And maybe it's because obviously Alien there's a lot more, she says, like films and books and stuff like that. But here, like Blade Runner, you've got obviously, like you said, the Android's Dream of Electric Sheep, the 2 films, like all that sort of stuff there. I just think it's just done it so well, and it just makes it really clear as a primer. So I always do think the first chapter is really good.
That's a really good point. And I think like the way that it sets out, not only the time, when you get the Welcome to Los Angeles 2037, you get like the little bit of intro, but then the bit that I think like being a Blade Runner, these elements, like where it says life on the Force, uneasy allies, the titles tell a lot, but it talks so much about like the key, and it says key themes later, but I still think everything that it says before this is a key theme, then humans and replicants, and then it goes into the key themes as well of like sci-fi action, hot pursuits down a neon lit alleyway, a high-speed spinner chase, a shootout on the rooftops, a brawl on Nightclub Row. Though not all conflicts end in blood, the Blade Runner experience wouldn't be complete without high-stakes action. Now, I do find that's not 100% true in the movies, but I kind of get what they're saying because they're saying it's like a thing, but I think it's part of it is more of the chasing mechanics, and we'll come on to those a bit later because they're really intrinsic to this game. Character drama is like an important thing within all of it. Like peering up the streets and gutters, we craft intimate character studies that examine how each individual ticks and explore how they come together or lose themselves as countless challenges and influence bring out the best in some and the worst in others. And I think it's really like it's that point of like the other 2 elements they mentioned on the next page of moral conflict and soul searching wrapped up in that character drama. Is that's what your drama's about. It's real noir themes of listlessly wandering the streets at night, contemplating the sort of like the case that got away. It's the moral conflict of that possibly this person has done something wrong, but maybe they did it only for the right reasons. And do I arrest them because, yes, they have broken the law, but they were only doing it for the greater good or whatever, or this person's clearly bad and I can't prove that they're bad, but I can do something illegal like tap their phones to find out the truth.
Evidence,
plant evidence, or even worse, planting evidence to like, and it's those sorts of like moral quandaries and themes that this book is playing on, all the noir sort of themes, all wrapped up, as you said, around corporate intrigue. And I think, as you mentioned in Alien, I think the big difference, that's the defining group of like things is corporate interference and don't trust them, basically, because they'll send people like David to come and chop your head off, basically.
Ooh, no. Or, get your own nexus there. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Or in the case of this, just like being just generally nefarious, awful human beings and up to no good. But then what the difference is, as you said, it's like it's the detective story versus the explorer marine, which is, or the scientist, I guess, is the other Alien sort of trope, isn't it? But it's that idea. This is what I love about this game, and I want to talk about a lot in this, is how well. And I really feel passionate about how good this is at teaching you how to run a detective game.
Yes.
I think it's really good. And I think before we even get into it, I suggest if people have got this far and they're interested, but they're not sure, even if you're playing any other system, I recommend reading the chapters in this about how to make a detective game and how to play in a detective game. Because I think they are fundamental for all games. I think they're really good. That's all.
I think one of the things I've come across, and I'm sure you have too, and because I know we're going to talk about like how you ran a Blade Runner, like basically in one day you did a scenario that we recorded, and you also made your own mystery for that. Because ultimately, mystery games are really difficult to do, I think, because especially when you're making, maybe I'm talking to people who are like, Fiona, I read crime left, right, and center. I know, Murder, She Wrote and all this stuff. And I'm just like going like, cool. I think clue giving and evidence stuff is really difficult. I know another game maybe we'll look at in future, like City of Mist, does a similar sort of thing of like the sort of pin board with the different things of like where to find stuff. I just don't know, because my brain is not clever enough to see the whole picture without being obvious, if you know what I mean. Like the way I see things, I assume other people might not see it, but also I just think I'm really obvious in general. So I agree. I think this particular game, because it at its heart, yes, mystery is there, but that's not the focus. It's not about winning. As you said, it's the character drama. That is number 2 in the key themes, as you said, is character drama, soul searching. So I don't know. It's interesting because, again, that's the sort of thing where you think of back to the film stuff like that, and you're like, oh yeah, I guess that's in there. But that's not what marketing necessarily advertises. You know what I mean? So I think that's what makes it like a really good role-playing game. Is that it hooks you in with this like detective story, but then you go, oh, am I a good person at the end? You know?
No, exactly. And I think it's that classic thing of hooks you with the big shiny pictures, and actually once you get into it, you're so drawn into so much about it. You know, on the case thing, I think like they have a case file generator at the back, so this is kind of one of the things that's really great. And I think what I found really useful about when I was looking into how to make it is it kind of gives you like things to do with like case table, like clues and twists and final confrontations and stuff like that. It kind of gives you this sort of playbook of different ways to go through thinking about it. So it goes like, think of the theme. So it gives you a set of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 themes here, but it rolls a D10, which really annoys me. But like, it gives you a couple of things to work on. I didn't roll for this, but I looked at it and I went for like corporate intrigue. And then I thought, well, I'm going to input into that the replicant sort of ideas and like a cult of replicants, which is actually something that they mentioned slightly in their Electric Dreams, and it comes out more in Fiery Angels because about the sort of replicant uprising that's potentially happening. The whole idea of this cult of like the replicant that they had a baby and all that stuff. So I thought that was kind of a cool thing. But I also then added into mine sort of love story as this secondary, like as the bit to help it along. And it gives you like an assignment. So I then thought about like, what's the assignment? Well, it's corporate intrigue. So I just had a corporate person go missing. And that's the simple like hook, right? Someone from Wallace Corp, big company, goes missing. So that means the police get involved. It means that you've already got the corporation, the big bad that you don't quite trust, involved, you know, so you've already got that already laid out with people already ready to come to the table with their ideas about how they're going to respond to the corporate entity. And then the thing that I didn't explain to them, but it turned out like there's a sort of love interest between the replicant and this thing. There's some weird tests happening. There's sort of like tests they're doing, and I think, but it was following this thing of like reading through like, okay, this, and then the replicants to start when it's in a trial, then gave me an idea to like use courtroom notes to make like a way to give an intrigue into like knowing that I made the character that went missing. They had transcripts on the computer from a courtroom where they were a witness that said things like positively towards replicants. So you're like, okay, maybe they're like, so that means there's an alignment. So maybe she, and at the same time they find a replicant's gone missing as well from a place that she was at. And there's blood, and so you're like, oh, so maybe she's working with the replicants, maybe she's been taken by the replicants, you don't know, so you leave that sort of like unassuming.
It's sort of like reading between the clues. I love it feels almost like an escape room. And I know, because obviously I know I was there, but we should say, like, because we were filming in a physical place for this, we had our wonderful friends that were playing as well, and you had props. You printed out and made props, which again, you spent a lot of time doing over. And I was like, wow, that's, again, I will say both the starter kit and the Fire Angel stuff, they're, again, like very much
great ones as well.
They've come with some really good ones. And I mean, all Free League, anything that's like a scenario with lots of stuff in it, I highly recommend getting the physical ones if you really enjoy the PDF, just because it's so nice to feel like the maps. And like you said, with these ones, you get posters, you get like things like that. But it inspired you to do your own, which 100%.
Is really... I recommend anyone buying this, buy the starter set, don't buy the core book. It's way better. And then if you like it, get the core book because of it. And that did inspire me. And and it gives you clues, what tells you how to make those, like forensic evidence, documents. I then did ones that look like they're like DOS code for like getting case files and stuff. And then one of them had to be jailbroken, so they had to roll for that. And I gave them a different piece of paper if they cracked the code or not.
That's so cool.
And then, and it's like gives you really good twists, which just inspire you. Like, it's a false flag operation. There's a cover up, which is if like that means that the government has tried to commit a crime to start something other. You know, it's like they've done something bad, and so you're not meant to be involved because the government's done it. Do you know what I mean? Or there's a mole in the LAPD connected to the case. You know, an NPC is completely unpredictable, and like it's quite interesting. And then final confrontations being fun. And I think like I think it's really good. As much as it doesn't like give you exactly the answers, it for me, just reading through it and getting these inspirations for like what things that what you could be looking at, just taking and picking from it, I found really good.
Yeah.
And that's at the end of the book. And there's the other bit in the middle of the book, which is like called Working the Case. That's at chapter 7. Is worth reading both sides of the fence, players and GMs.
Yes.
Because that gives you so much more into like how you should be within this. Like, use your forensic sciences. You're doing what a criminal investigation actually means, what spec ops and what special forces are, what the administration does. Like, you have record libraries. Remember, have memory labs, you have memory vaults. Use these to your advantage. So, you know, like giving you things to just that are different. Like, oh, I can actually have, if it's a replicant we're looking after, I can go and find the memories that have been instilled in them, which can give me like something to empathize with them. Do you know what I mean? So this could be a way to like get inside the psyche of the replicant if we're after someone like that.
Absolutely.
Or how to leverage assets, and gives you really cool ones. And I think, I don't know, the standard producers thing is like maintain your cover, examples of incriminating evidence, how to build your case. Like, it's like, you know, you've got to have means, opportunity, motive. It really goes into what does it mean to be a detective in a really, really interesting and great way. And I think we can talk about the wider mechanics of the game, but I think this is where I wanted to go to. I'm going to first. I didn't know if I was going to go here first, but it's like this is the bit that I'm like so excited about, and I love so much about it that I'm like, this is what's worth it getting it for.
I wanted to say I completely agree. Is that sort of thing where I wouldn't know where to start? If someone said I need you to run a detective game in 2 weeks, I'm like, oh shit. But like, and even if you're not using this particular system, I think it's just helpful to know, because again, like I said, I'm not necessarily, you know, I'm the person who watches Midsummer Murders and is like, I think John Nettles did it, who's the main detective in it. You know, I just don't know, because I'm that sometimes I'm just that sort of oblivious to things. So having this stuff I was like, okay, these are the resources I've got, because again, it's very tropey. I think a lot of times when you invite people to do a game, certainly for stream or for content, people are like, oh, I don't know what the main tropes. I want to make sure I get it right. And I'm always like, don't worry about it. Whatever you think, we will go with it. And I'm always happy to talk it out. But if you're like, hey, we're doing a detective game, read these, like that particular chapter 7 is like 22 pages total. And again, a lot of it is nice pictures as well.
Exactly, and some rolling tables on one page as well.
So I think it's not asking a lot of your players to read through, but it gives you something to be like, okay, if I'm in trouble, I can go to these people, and this is what maybe is normal standard, etc. Also, I should be aware of. And again, you know, it's just, you've got that as that primer as well. And I think it suits for any game. And similarly, I do think a lot of this book, so the core book I'm looking at now, it talks about LA, you know, in this city. And like, again, if you do chapter 1, which is Fiery, the Angels Fell, and the Tale of Two Cities, obviously it's setting you up like, this is your playground to play in for these things. But equally, you could be like, well, I don't want to play in LA. I want to play in Chicago. I want to play in New York. I think even you could say like London or a UK city, absolutely. But I think it's obviously in the film it is LA, because it's just that sort of thing. But I think easily you could take what it's given you and be like, okay, a big city, where can it go? And then you can tailor it to your own thing. It's very much like, you know, Vampire the Masquerade, where it's like, well, we'll set it, you know, LA by night, Manchester by night, or whatever. You can take this framework and put it in, and it's so easy to do so, you know.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like, as you said, it's very tied to LA. I think this, and like American noir as well, it's very much that sort of ilk. So I feel like it feels very like, but I in the sense of like the way it's written, but you're totally right. You could so put any spin on this. And I think, as I said, just using these rules to just make a detective story in a fantasy game would be great. Do you know what I mean? Like, I still think you could work this system to anything. Ignore it, like those elements of the system.
Like I think I'm just thinking now about one of the best games I ever played was L.A. Noire, and where you were playing that sort of 1920s detective. Although by the end on disc 4, I was a bit like, okay, because it made you to be a bad detective, and I was like, I've aced every investigation. I don't know why I am being punished, but that's not what the story was about. But yeah,
I was terrible at that game.
Well, yeah, it was one of those games. Again, I'm sure you remember. It was at the time. It was like, oh, you investigate people and facial things because they're using the real actors' faces, and when they do something, you could be like probe, and of course it's all like wink, sweating, and then there's one where they weren't doing anything, and I was like, I think they're good. I don't know. But then again, with L.A. Noire, often you would send down people or be told to send down people who hadn't committed the crime. And I just, it was, I just remember now the flashbacks of going, but they're innocent. I clearly know they're innocent, but the big dogs at top want me to pin the blame on this person. So I think overall, I really love the setting. I think it's just an easy one to get into. And again, if you don't know anything about detective stories, if you don't know anything about Blade Runner, an easy read, much easier than Lord of the Rings, I feel like, there's just the flip to that. So really cool. And again, same with Alien as well. I think Alien also has a lot in terms of like sci-fi jargon and various factions and all that sort of thing. Here, I think it's fairly straightforward because it's limited to the city of LA or the powers that be, which again, it just reduces the size down. It is a region rather than the whole of space.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You could take this and put it, because as they said, like the Alien setting is the same setting. Like that's what Ridley Scott said. They're set in the same world. There's no reason why you couldn't be a Blade Runner taken to one of the off-world places. You're on a space station. There's been something happen there. Like you can take it like extraterrestrial. Like, there's no reason why that couldn't happen. If you wanted to, I could see someone really going for it and like, you do an investigation, plot twist, face hugger, there's no reason why, you know what I mean? Like, there's no reason why that's not a thing.
I'd even say then the system as well, you would need some finagling to streamline it, but easily you could change your character sheet from one to another, a transitional thing. Maybe, like you said, you have been, you've given back your badge and your gun because you've been bad, and now you've been sent off-world to repent for your crimes, and then, you are a colonist instead, or whatever,
Yeah.
And the big thing I think to mention, we've not said it, but I know this might seem very obvious, is that in this game, your role is Blade Runner. So that is your role is sort of set in the sense of that you're working for the LAPD, but you can be either a human or a replicant, and you pick that at character creation, which again, I think a lot of people will find very intriguing. There are tiny little bit of differences between the rules in terms of if you're playing an android character or not. But again, only slightly, thankfully, because Alien has its own rules for androids, which works well for that setting because it's a bit more combat-esque sort of thing. Yeah. Here, I think it's really interesting because it goes back to that character drama of like, well, we've got an android on the case with us. There's that tension because we remember what happened with the Nexus 6s and like this horrible uprising, and can we trust them, all that sort of thing, which I think again builds into that drama. Because in the actual play that you ran, Chloe was playing a replicant in that. No, they weren't.
And
who was it? Stuart.
And Stuart was playing a replicant, but like an old replicant.
Oh, an old replicant.
I know.
Oh,
that was it. So
around. Oh,
yeah, I know. We let him play a skimmer, which is not like an older replicant model that has been kept on. So gave him like old timer years on the force and stuff, so we kind of played with the rules a bit, but he was like an old model that had been like upgrade, like just been kept on the force, which is why he felt, but that was the thing that I quite liked about his portrayal of it, was that he played it very much as like, I am the old dog at the game, at like being a detective, but also a replicant that has like superhuman strength, even though it looks kind of older and stuff like that. Which I think is it was a great play on the archetype, which I think was very cool.
Really cool. Yeah.
To like change tack very quickly, but I think it's worth noting that as a Free League game, you use the same system as their Year Zero system, isn't it, for everything?
Kind of. It's not though for this game, because again,
it's based off it again.
It's absolutely based off it. Yeah, you've got your attributes, 4 attributes, and then various skills that are connected to those attributes. But instead of having it has
Just
like D6s, yeah. So having points in that, you have grades, which makes me laugh so much. Oh, you got your dice there. Yeah, you get a whole set of dice for this, and basically, if the higher your grade, the better the die value you have. So grade A is a D12, and I think grade D is a D6. I want to say.
Yeah, so it's 6, 8, 10, and 12.
8, 10, and 12. Yeah. And basically, you will add your attribute and the related skill together. So you'll be rolling 2 dice, or the 2 die values, and you have to get a single success, get at least a 6 or more on one of the die. And then the more 6s you get, or the more successes you get, the better things you could do, like stunts and whatnot from there.
And the 10 or more gets you 2 successes.
That's
on the
it.
die.
Thank you. Yeah. And I wasn't sure about this, again, because Alien is like, it's just D6 pools, don't worry about it. I kind of like this. It feels different enough, and you're thinking about stuff a little bit more. And like advantage and disadvantage, all that is that you roll the lowest dice again, essentially. Which I was like, oh, brutal. So yeah, I just think that was just really interesting in that sort of sense. Like, how was that during play? Did it work? Was it easy for the players to get their heads around?
I think it took a while to get around, and I read a little extra into this, which is like, because I had the same thought to this, but I was listening to someone talk about it just whilst I was trying to get back into this, and they make a really interesting point of like the A, B, C, D thing, which I always thought that's what confused everyone. So like, it's a D, what's a D? Okay, a D is a 6. Okay, fine. What's a B? Oh, that's a 10. Is that the reason that is because in the movie, when you see the replicants chart, it grades their abilities from A to C on their chart.
I didn't know that.
So that's why it's stolen from the movie. So like, I was like,
very cool.
Makes it very cool. So makes sense why. But yeah, I think the die was great. The thing that was really cool, if we finally get it ever out, you'll hear Fiona shout, "Push the roll" every 5 seconds.
The one thing about free league games is like you push the roll, because I think you were failing. The players were failing really badly. I'm like, come on, just please, push the roll. Beg you, push the roll. Yeah, from behind the screen. Yeah. And that's a great system. The push roll, is that you can re-roll anything that hasn't had a 1, because a 1 has a little origami picture on it. But you can re-roll any other dice. But if you do use the push the roll and you get or already have had one of those symbols, you then gain a point of stress, which is one of the key factors within the game of gaining stress, which is, we talked about the 4 attributes: strength, agility, intelligence, empathy, but there are actually few extra like elements of attributes, I'd say, of like, there's obviously health, but there's resolve, which is like equal to some of the die size for your intelligence and empathy, which is interesting, but it's a kind of a really key thing about how you can get through elements of stress. But also stress then can lead to further like additional effects, and there's obviously like the content warning behind this of like a lot of games have interacted with like mental health, and there is definitely another element of like, there's a fundamental part of this game which focuses around like your mental health, which is a trope element from, as we mentioned with the neo-noir, you're dealing with moral dilemmas, you're dealing with soul searching, and that can lead to those issues. So it's but then also being a police officer in a horrible situation leads to stress. So they've mechanicked it, which I feel, when we were playing our game, I just took it out and just said, we will just treat it like you can play that and role play that however you want. I don't want to mechanize that setting. I think you can take that how you feel. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you feel like you would be stressed, then feel stressed. If you feel like you wouldn't be, then don't be. Do you know what I mean? Like, your your character. And just to say on that, I agree, because I think with this, you can take it out easily and it doesn't affect the game. Whereas games like Alien, obviously you have the panic dice and the stress things there. Like, the only thing I've ever taken out of Alien when I've run it is that there is like a permanent insanity table that if you get so much stress, this happens. And I was like, no, because obviously the whole point is that you're constantly stressed. Of course you're going to be, get these things. And I'm like, the odds are already stacked against them. I'm not going to, and also I didn't want them to feel like they had to roleplay that. So I agree here is that the stress stuff you can easily take out on that. But again, I will say all the tables in this book are really good. I think they take it in such a way and are very good at sort of explaining and giving you ideas, so that if you did want to include it, let's say the stress, if you took stress damage or physical damage, I think It feels very thought out as well.
Yeah, it's not done like in an awkward way. It's just, for me, it's more the mechanicness of it, and I feel like leaving the players the opportunity to manage that however you like is where I felt more comfortable. I guess that's kind of my point on it. Yeah, but there's other kind of elements to this as well, like that I just wanted to mention because they did come up in our game, was the key memory.
Yes. Sorry, I get very excited about this one because I'm like, it's so many tables. I love it. Yeah, all the tables for this.
Do you want to talk about it? Because you seem so excited about it. So you can talk about key memory.
So, I'll tell you about it. And again, I want to have your thoughts on it as well. So, yeah, the key memory, again, it's part of character creation. I will say character creation does make me laugh a little bit because it's like 15 steps. But a lot of it is like, choose a name. It's like, okay, that could be another thing, you know. But yeah, the key memory, as far as I understand it, is just something that like is a central part of who you are, no matter if they are real or artificially engineered. Each character has a key memory of something defining event in the past, whether it's your own, someone else's, or a complete fiction designed in a memory lab. It is the focal point of your personality. So once per game, you can use this memory in a skill roll to improve your chance to succeed, and you have to justify why that is the case. And then you have the memory tables of like, when did it happen? Where did it happen? Who was there? What happened? Yeah. And then how did it make you feel? That's the final table. I'm like, how did it make you feel? Because I feel sometimes you're like, I can get the who, what, where, but then like, how did it, you were part of it, how does it make you feel? Even if it's a fake memory, and you maybe know it's a fake memory because you know that you're a replicant. I was like, oh, that could be really good because you might feel indifferent, but it's like, it is a part of you and it makes you who you are, but you might feel like disassociated from it. And again, it goes back to that, as I keep going on about it, the drama, that tension, that you may be not happy with the identity that you have been given. And I just think it's just, again, it feels very Matrix in a way, perhaps, when you're like, I have to play this role, but I'm not happy with it, and I don't want to be this person. I want to be my own person as a result.
That's the part of it that both Chloe and Stuart took on, was that element of like, what's the word I'm looking for? The sort of like, because Stuart playing a replicant had a memory that kept key to him, and I can't remember what it is, which really not is what I'm trying to figure out at the moment. But I do remember him using it at a point where everything was seemingly lost. Without giving anything away, what it did in the sense of like, even though it was like that idea of like, even though it's not real, you know, it feels real. Do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. And it's like that's what I love about it is the sense, I guess it's just the feeling of it, but like the emotive power that it can give to the game is really great, which goes hand in hand with all the other things they have with like the key relationships that they have in this game, and the idea you have a signature item in your gear.
Yeah.
These things that all together in character creation show in it how fundamentals of the system, that's what I'm trying to get at, is in like the cohesive whole of this game is really well considered. That's kind of what I'm looking for.
Again, I always say this nowadays, ever since we talked about Mothership, I do wish there was more about your connection to other players. Obviously, you have a key relationship. So obviously you have a key contact that you can talk about, which you roll for. Amazing, great. And maybe you don't. Maybe you don't. If you're just assigned to a case with another Bladerunner, that's fine. But I just always think it's quite good to have that, well, we worked before, and we get on like this. You know, you start in that media res moment rather like, this is my first day on the job, which it could be really boring for certain people, you know. Like, I think I've mentioned this before. One of my top places to get like those relationships between people is Kids on Bikes. They have tables for like a positive relationship, a negative relationship, and then an indifferent, don't know them relationship kind of thing. And it's a D20, and you roll on it, and it goes like, you know, what was the time that they saved you from something? You know, so and it's all, and they're questions that aren't. I don't think they're specifically aimed at children necessarily, but it could be any genre or anything like that, and you could tweak it. And I just think something like that would really help it. And again, I don't think the book is meant to do that. Obviously, you're like, but I don't want you to be playing a lone wolf character, right? You know, that's the thing.
It sometimes does do that a little bit as well, trying to make you lone wolfy in some respects. But I know what you mean, and it's like, I totally agree. I think the thing that's missing exactly, and you know, I think that feels like it isn't mentioned enough, was the relationship to your partner, because that's so fundamental to police work, right? There's always, I know that Blade Runners, I work alone, I'm a lone wolf, but this isn't a game necessarily for that. It talks about group actions, it talks about you're part of a force, you're part of a police force, you're like a unit. I think that it should really focus on the two-person game of like like partners, I think, and how that dynamic works and what your relationship to each other is. What's a key memory you have together? What's a key relationship? How's your relationship like? Is it good? Is it bad? Is there something that is in your past that you can't get over, but you're stuck together? Or have you been forced together last minute, as you said? Or, what is it? Because we did like our session 0 with Stuart and like talking together as like a GM and with the players about like what their characterization is. And this is obviously all things GMs can do, but it's nice to have it in the book where it's like, well, Stuart being a replicant and then Chloe playing the sort of like engineering trope character, sort of taking that idea works so well because like one can fix the other, sort of thing. But also one is like younger, one is older, even maybe actually their age was probably like the same, but like older on the force, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
And so the idea of the sort of rookie and the veteran, these kind of like character tropes, which they do play on in the archetypes with some issues, I feel, but it feels like, what's the dynamic between the two of you, what's the dynamic more between yourself and Chief Holden, the sort of, really like overplaying those tables on your relationships to all these different things would be really good. We haven't talked about it, but you have this whole system about your years on the force and promotions and like reprimands and all these extra things, which really get into the nitty gritty of like the mechanics of being a police officer on that level, like how much experience you have, so you get more skills and slightly you get less points to your attributes, but more skills as you get older.
More specialized. Absolutely.
So you're more specialized, but less sort of like strong, possibly.
You go ahead, younger. No,
exactly. And you get more promotion points, and then and like mechanically dealing with promotion is an interesting thing. And
I think it's hilarious in this book.
It is. Yeah,
because it's like if you get so many, was it 5 promotion points in one go or something like that, you get like a commendation or something like that. But it's just like a fancy title, and then it goes, but obviously if you get lots of these things, people won't trust you anymore. They think you're a bit of a dick because you're like, no, I don't want this. So I think it's great.
I'm too good at my job. Exactly.
You can push for a pay rise as well, which made me laugh as well in this game.
It's so true. It like gets into nitty-gritty of that, which is funny that it then lacks that sort of relational element of those parts of the force, which is
because I was just having a quick look and seeing like, so it says the game is for 2 to 5 players. So the most obviously in the game that you ran, you had 2 players, which I think 3 here, like that feels really cool. And so again, 1-on-1 fine as well. But I think 4 people and 1 GM, you need to have something to connect them in some way, because especially because this game encourages you to split up to do multiple scenes, because it has this like the shift schedule of like, is it, I don't know, morning, afternoon, night, evening, night, and so you have, time will move on, and you need at least one of these shifts to do some downtime as well, very, very Blaze in the Dark as well. So it's like, okay, there's only so much introspective, like navel gazing players can do. You might want to have like the quick scene where you're at the bar and go, oh, sorry kid, that you've never seen a dead body before, have you? All that sort of I think just a little bit of that would be good. But I think that's a common criticism of a lot of freebie books just now, is because it's just something it's really thinking about, like actual places of like having that stuff in session 0 means then you're off to a running start in the actual game, and you're like, oh, they're doing this because they used to be married and now they're not, all that sort of thing, which again you would do with session 0.
I think like ultimate like ability to make game of this, like if you really wanted to go for like more than 2 players would, and I think like to do it as like a 4-player game at home and to try and make everyone feel involved on a constant basis, I think would be difficult to manage, because in my mind, like the ultimate way, if you were going to do it for like content, as I know I always talk about, but like in my mind is like, oh, it would be really great to have players involved that were like, okay, we've got the 2 main detectives, we've got an analyst back at base, right? Who also could double, like, I think one that could be more like doing all the like I watch Patrick H. Willems, who's like a movie commentator, and he does a whole thing about documents movies, right? So that's, your Aaron Brockovich's, your Pelican Briefs, those kind of movies. where people are looking through documents. Do you know what I mean? Like that's their job. So you could have someone who's on the analyst side who's like, I'm going to go down to the courthouse. I'm going to find the court records. I'm going to go into the archives and see what things are on them. And you'd make it about like the detectives on the scene, like, okay, they're on site. They find out that someone's gone missing and they go, oh yeah, and this person was here. Here's a photo. And you go, okay, send the photo to Jiminy Bob back at analyst at base. And then you leave it. And then you could cut to like them getting to like the picture. I put it into the computer. And then they're talking to them. And then like the fourth one I'd have, if you're going to have four, I could think of as like, you're the coordinator. Right? They're the person who's like, okay, you do this, you do that, seeing the sort of like bigger picture of like what they might do. And the analyst could also probably get involved in like testing bloods and finding out those things and doing roles for those sorts of investigations. Because I feel like that's the sort of dynamic, but I think that would be hard as a game at home. Because I think how would you'd have people just sitting there just being like, what am I doing?
Well, I think, but ultimately, as we've talked about on previous episodes of the DM's Book Club, this is definitely, I feel like you can absolutely do one scenario done, but to get the most out of it is doing several cases. And therefore, like, this is like you said, this is the analyst case to shine in. And then we reveal like, oh, they have this backstory where maybe they do have a family that they don't speak to, but they're giving child support, but then that's not brought into the everyday case, and you think about all those, I do think the US American style show, I'm thinking of House, particularly the medical doctor House, where it's like you have the main team and then every so often you're like, here's a member of the team. Oh, it's a story focused on them. Oh shit, it's so much deeper as a result. So I think, if you want to go for that, again, character, I feel like 2 to 3 scenarios and making sure that each scenario reflects different aspects. It's not just like, another dead body. It's something else. It is like someone's gone missing.
Yeah.
Corporate, there's been some damage to something, or there's a corporate intrigue, or there's been hacking, all that sort of thing. And then obviously, I know one of the expansion books for this is the Replicant Rebellion, whereby, again, maybe that's a natural transition. There's suddenly your replicant characters or people who are sympathetic to their causes then goes to join that revolution and then fights against it. Once you've got in and we're like, oh, this system's terrible. Spoilers, we knew that. But, I just, it's willing to just like, give it a go and then get fully immersed with it. I can imagine you take a full, a full year's worth of stuff in this and really getting into these characters and giving 100%. It the time to breathe.
I think that's the thing. And I sit here listen to you say it and I'm like, I wish I had the time because I think it would be really cool. And I think you're going back to like, we haven't talked quite about the archetypes, but you're kind of right as well, because there are other archetypes that like the fixer, for example, who's this sort of career politician, or just like knows everyone, is in the courtroom, stuff like that. That's another person that you could possibly have who could always just be coming in and out of the group, like they could just be there and you could have stories centered around them. And if you were like, this would take a lot of adeptness from the GM's point of view, but the trick would be like, we're just gonna have a scene with the fixer right now, and you're on the streets and you just hear a name mentioned that you rings a bell and you're like, oh, that's to do with my case, and you just hear some people walk on, like that kind of thing. And so then you just, what do you do? And you're like, well, I follow them where they're going. And
I'm
you
not
follow them.
That. Yeah,
and then you follow the lead, and that's their scene, is them following these people who just mentioned something that had to do with the case that the two detectives on the scene, the set heard, I've told you about, and then that leads you to like a gambling den where they're meeting up to like talk about this person. Then you're like, I found out something, and then that's their scene. But oh my gosh, does that take like coming up with the scenario I did, frickin' heck, took me months of like prep whilst, and let alone doing this as a regular game for a long period of time. I think you'd find yourself really working hard when you have to like try and weave multiple storylines, whilst if you just have the two people, at least you just got to focus on like what they interact with and leaving things hidden. And it's worth noting maybe at this point that there are only 2 scenarios written for this, which is the one that's in the starter set, which is Electric Dreams, and the
Fiery
Angels one, which is a separate book, and that's it. And I'm not surprised it's not one of the ones that lots of people have like rushed to make content for. I don't know what the Free League third party is on this at all.
I don't know. I assume there is a license of some sort.
bet there isn't because of it being
IP. Yeah, of course.
IP.
Yes.
So it probably relies on free stuff, which with the amount of effort this takes ain't going to happen very often, as much as I'm sure people would love to.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's going to come down to running those or doing the work yourself. So it is a problem in that sense, I'd say.
The main issue I have with this, because again, I can imagine if you've listened to us going like, oh my God, we want to play games, we want to do whole campaigns with. I think my only big issue with this RPG, and it's such a small thing, but I think it's something and we need to bring up quite a bit, because I can imagine people going, oh, this is a really cool idea, and then whapping it out, and then not realizing that how it could impact the players, is this idea of the secret replicant. So as I said at the beginning, when you create your character, you can be a human or a replicant, but you can, as the GM, it says, you could decide that one of the human characters in your group is actually a secret replicant, and everything that they know to be true isn't true. And it says roll a dice at the beginning, and that's how you decide. And I'm like, as a player, if I knew that was the case, I would love that. But I would never wish it on anyone, just because, it's kind of like that agency gets taken away from the player to make that choice. And, we could I'm very happy to have that conversation with players like, hey, do you want to be a secret replicant, but no one else around the table knows? Cool. That's the sort of thing there, but I want their buy-in on it, rather than me being temple fingers GM going like, and now you're not who you say you are, and now you're not doing well. And also it has a lot of homework as well, I think, because obviously the promotion system is a little bit different for replicants, and the baseline test stuff. So there's like all this stuff where you're like, there's a lot of extra things maybe you need to keep on the down low. I can't be bothered with, and I'd rather make sure the player is happy for this to happen and it becoming a story point later on. So yeah, it was just, I felt like, I don't know, I was kind of taken back, and I remember at the time there was also a little bit of backlash around it as well. It just seems like again, I guess because it's a lot of the talk about the original Blade Runner is whether or not Deckard is a replicant. And I think it just is one of those things where it came out maybe just before the big rise of like safety tools and stuff like that, because there's no safety tool like thing other than saying like, hey, things are grim here, be careful. It does its standard Free League stuff. But yeah, that's the only thing where I was like, ooh, for me, I would revel in being revealed as a secret replicant, but I like being in on that secret. I would like to work with a GM and be like, here's a little sprinkling of salt, or something's not right about this character. What could it be? Are they a replicant? Are they not? Keep it ambiguous,
It's an extension of the detective story in a sense, because there's an intrigue within. I love the secret replicant idea, and I think also just as you said, it just builds on the whole, like, it's not moral quandary, but it's the soul searching element of it. Am I a replicant? The sort of idea that then what it's asking you to do by even posing that question is like, what does it mean to be human? And that's a fundamental part of the game as well as the movie. Like, what does it mean? Like, I like the monologue at the end of Blade Runner is one of the most famous modern monologues, I guess, and is an entirely human response. I have seen things, and like Tears in Rain is such a like incredibly powerful image.
Roy Batty, it's such an icon. I can see it now. Like just him in the rain. It's so good. Oh, it's
so good, and especially if it doesn't have the voiceover bit when in the shitty edit where if the voiceover has to happen, like the non-voiceover bit when it just finishes on that sort of thing, is just elemental and like and elemental to the setting of like. Well, that's what Philip K. Dick is dealing with. Like, do androids dream of electric sheep? What does it mean? What are we? What it differentiates us? And what is it to be that? So yeah, if you're not tackling that, then are you playing Blade Runner? Are you really playing Blade Runner? Are you just playing a detective?
Are you just a detective? I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of it, because it's like, I think you have to give it the thing that's different, like from any other noir setting, because like a noir setting has moral quandary and it has soul searching, but if you're not questioning the fundamental point of what it means to be human at the essence of it, I think that's kind of part of it, right? I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying not telling anyone you have to run it that way. Sorry, I don't want to mean that. But what I mean is like, that's what makes it Blade Runner in my mind, I think, personally.
I agree.
But
I agree.
there's a lot more to Blade Runner than just that. So that's probably fair.
Yeah.
Because humanity is an actual attribute of the game.
I know.
Which you
humanity
gain.
points is so funny.
Yeah. And empathy being a fundamental part, like one of the 4 attributes is empathy. And like, my gosh, I think we could do with more law enforcement with such things. But it's an important element of it. And I think the element of empathy and humanity and how it's about not losing that is a classic trope in all noir settings. The fact that you will see the worst side of humanity, and how do you keep that when you know that humanity is awful? And I think unfortunately everyone's finding out for themselves daily that humanity has the propensity more and more to be, we're more and more aware of how humans can feel so unhuman.
Yes. And desolate,
and devoid of humanity, and and devoiding others of their humanity as well. And so these are very hard topics, but I think that's what this book is trying. This setting is trying to achieve. So I think another book tries to bring that in as a mechanic, which is weird when you mechanize these things. Well, that's what RPGs are, but it's
because again, like you said, right now in the US with all the ICE raids happening, all that sort of, all the stuff, like Black Lives Matter, there's a big dislike and distrust of law enforcement. And even here where I live, God, the Reddit forums, let me tell you, they do not like the law enforcement for various reasons, and I think legitimate reasons as well. So I think having a game like this, which again sets that veil of like sci-fi, it's like our reality but not quite our reality, to be able to play in these themes safely and explore them, and explore people's very valid and very passionate feelings about this. And if you are in these shoes, what would it feel like? And I will say, you can't necessarily be not a Blade Runner in this. You can't be just a replicant other person or anything like that I'm aware of, unless you know otherwise.
Well, I think the only thing I would say is you could play, if you played the fixer role, that's the only one where I think you could play a game that's more like political intrigue.
Yes.
And actually, you could. I think the only one that I look at, and maybe the analyst as well, where you could edit it. I agree. Sorry, I'm taking you off your point.
No. Please, yeah.
I just think it's a really interesting thought process, because I wondered. It's the same thought I've had. It's like you can't play, because we were talking about the 4-player thing. You can't just have someone playing an NPC, because it doesn't really give you necessarily those things. And I went, well, actually, you could. You're just not going to have the same benefits, and you're going to have to figure out how that kind of works with the promotion stuff. But you could just have an analyst who is just someone who's like working in a back room somewhere, who's not really a proper Blade Runner or a part of law enforcement. They're just your go-to analyst. You know what I mean? You could be and then I think the other one was the fixer, where you could just be like, you're not really a Blade Runner. You are someone in between the law who they utilize to find out information in the upper echelons of society, rather than the city speaker, who's more like one of the archetypes, which is much more about the streets, the people to talk to. The fixer could be someone that is a club owner, or is just like a court reporter, or is like a journalist of some description, or something along those lines, or is just like the person you go to get something, the sort of concierge in John Wick. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like that absolutely. Kind of character that I think you could. So I think you could play outside of the law if you wanted to. And you could always just change promotion. You could change those effects to being like a part of a gang, like a vigilante group,
having some ranks in that, but also, as it said, the consequence is like you get a title or reputation, which then affects how you are. And it's not like it's faction status like in Blades in the Dark, where it's like, it's a +1 of this faction or -1 of this faction. It's just a general. Again, I could have that conversation with people like, okay, so these groups of people that you've interacted with, well, they don't wish to be around you now because they've seen you talking to the cops, and
exactly
you've dobbed in so and so, even though you might have been completely incidental because of that thing. So I think you could absolutely do that.
I think that would be really good. Like that's even if you even made it like a couple of groups and factions, you can talk about like you could make a little network of what those. If you talk to these people, that's going to piss off these people. If you help these people, you might be okay with these people, and that kind of thing. I think is another way of playing it, and even could be an additional thing to do if you're going to play that city speaker level cop, where it's like you've got to be careful here because you know this like all the people in all the networks. They don't like it when you get friendly with their foes, like if you want to know that you've got to stay neutral. You've always got to try and stay neutral and be like, oh, Bobby, I'm always your best mate. That kind of thing. You got to work at that. You got to say, oh no, I just got to talk to them because I got to talk to everyone. I don't show favorites and stuff like that.
This is the two-facedness of schoolyard women who are just like, oh no, I would never say anything against you, Sandra. Oh my God, you look great. That's the most fugly looking skirt I've ever seen. You're probably Mean Girls. So
yeah, exactly. Well, exactly. And I think it's that kind of thing. So yeah, but I agree. I think you're right. Fundamentally, it's forcing you down a road of being a detective and being a Blade Runner, but you could work at it if you wanted to. But
it's, as you said before, with the stress mechanics and stuff like that, I think all of this, compared to other 3D games, is a bit more malleable, and you could take things and leave things as you were. Because like ultimately, the promotion points, they don't lead to anything necessarily mechanical. It's just like a title also, that from what I've read. So yeah, I agree. And the humanity ones is just a way to remind, a little bit like, again, in Vampire the Masquerade, a lot of the powers and stuff, they're all very flavorful. And it's just like, how do you see it as you've got access to this thing, but they'll always succeed. You'll always do the thing, but you just need to roll to make sure you're not going to get more hungry because you're relying more on the beast and stuff like that. So yeah, I think overall, the Blade Runner's like the core concept, I think, is really interesting. The other thing I was going to quickly talk about as well, and I think something that again came up in the actual play, was the combat and chases essentially. And what I thought was really cool. And damage as well. So I'll say about the chases is that it instantly splits them into 3 separate categories of on foot, by car, and by air. And I'm like, oh, great. That makes, again,
so good.
Yes, obvious. I know, obvious. But Fiona's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And you have these obstacles for different ones, different tables. And I think you'll have to remind me of this. There's cards, right? There's like a.
I was literally just getting them out.
I can see you doing them. So
I love them. They're amazing.
Please.
So another reason to get yourself the star set is you get a set of cards that talk about all the different chase maneuvers for the different types of chases. And this mechanic was on my list of talk about chases because they're really cool in the sense that like you break down the chase into a series of rounds, basically a bit like it says, like just like combat, but no initiative. And the following procedure is used in each round of the chase. Each position selects a maneuver in secret, which is cool because you can give them the chase maneuvers and they can draw the cards, or as the GM, you just keep it for yourself to draw what your maneuver is going to be. The game randomly generates an obstacle and reveals it. The pursuer and prey both reveal their maneuver. The maneuvers are resolved with the prey going first and the pursuer last, which is kind of cool. And so these maneuvers come on the card. So you've got like stand and shoot, pursue, flee, block. Block comes out a lot. Cut off. I've got 2 sets of these because it's to give to the other person. Other, which is like you do something that's not covered by any other maneuver, which is fine. And I'm just checking. I've got hide, which hasn't come up yet in my thing, which is really cool. So it's like they're thematic words that you can then be like come up with your idea of it. So pursue and flee is just like the pursuer and the prey are allowing themselves just going to keep driving, or we're going to keep running. Block though might be like you then get a skill that you have to use, and then you have to resolve them by rolling for your successes, and you complete your successes against each other depending on what you do. So the benefit might be like if you block, stand and shoot, you then do your try and block, it doesn't work, you stand and shoot, you shoot them, you actually shoot them. And if you both pursue and flee, you move on. That's how I remember it. I've got that right?
I think so, yeah. And this is what I'm going to ask you. Was it like almost like you reveal the cards at the same time of what your characters
That's what
doing?
It says. You're meant to do that. You're meant to do it, which I think is really cool. Yeah, 100%.
There's another game I played ran a long time ago called Mouse Guard, which had a similar sort of thing of like swords, shields, or whatever. And it was almost like rock, paper, scissors. So you'd reveal at the same time, your action beats my action, so you get whatever. And I love that sort of thing because again, it feels very thematic when you're doing this, like this chase sequence. It's like, okay, 3, 2, 1. Oh shoot, you're actually going to stop and shoot. Okay, well I'm just running. And I just think I love that sort of thing where you just having those maneuver cards. Like you said, it feels like you're playing. You know what I'm like. You're playing a game within a game. You're like, okay, what are they thinking? They might be as a player going like, well, I'm better at doing this, but actually, I'm going to do this because this is more fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh.
Which feels like the chase in that you don't know what your person's going to do. And I think like the idea that like, and also the worth noting, like if you take the standard shoot, there's different, you move out, if you pursue and flee and whoever gets the higher amount of successes moves one further range category away. And there's sets of like, as the type of combat works on like close, near, far sort of mechanics. And so like, if you can do that standard shoot early enough, you might have a better opportunity of using your shoot attack, and so you might be able to stop them. But so it's kind of like it's a fun thing. And if you're like cutting them off and stuff like that, I think it's a really cool way. And or like having the obstacles as well. So like foot chase obstacles, you can like put a dead end in. If the prey has chosen to pursue, flee, hide, or block, the maneuver fails automatically. So you choose it by random. So you allow them to make that thing, and they might screw themselves up. So like 2, the sidewalk crossing goes from green to red. Don't walk, and the traffic begins to move. This gives an advantage to the hide maneuver, but a disadvantage to pursue, flee, stand, and shoot. So really, really great. I didn't get to use it in the game, the chase, because it never actually came to it. There was the element never happened. They were either too late to get to the scene, or they were like, as in like they kind of started the process, but then they weren't quick enough to get there, and it was too late, and so we never got to use it. But I think it's a really great system.
I love it. I think it's one of those things where, again, and I'm never like, oh, being online is better than being in person. Each people have their own ways of running games. But could you imagine doing a chase? You're all around the table in person, and you're going like, guys, I don't know, I'm down to these 2 maneuvers. What do you, and how they like, I think it's just really cool to get that energy off people. Really cool. And again, like you said, it doesn't matter if it's on foot, by car, by air. Like, I think, again, all those things just feel very, I just see it, this very cinematic. You're like, oh God, that's what makes me excited.
You get the obstacle cards as well, so you can lay them down as well. So they're like, so you choose it in. Yeah, so my favorite.
Love it. Yeah, sorry, very excited.
Umbrellas, all the neon umbrellas bobbing their way along the rainy sidewalk provide cover for the prey. A hide maneuver gets advantage, and even if the prey doesn't hide, the pursuer must roll observation. If it fails, their maneuver for the round fails automatically. Ooh. Any failed stand or shoot maneuver means a bystander is hit. Like you get the classic,
so cool.
And the other one that I like is the Street Thugs one, which is number 11, which is D6 Street Thugs block the road, threatening violence. The prey must roll connections to be allowed to pass, which I think is really cool, because it's that kind of like, because if you do get it, you get that cool movement of going like, what's up, fellas? Sort of move past, and they just get out of your way.
Please. Yeah.
And then the pursuer must then roll connections, and then they might be like, oh, it's the police, and they just get in your way. That classic, like,
oh yeah. I could just imagine it being, and this makes me more excited than any combat section, because that's what it is. This is technically the combat section, right? But it is that focus on like, because combat ultimately is going to be a shootout or a fight, and that's kind of it. There's not going to be the big old fantasy brawl or anything like that. Here it's like, this is make or break time, as you said, and I feel like I get so excited about it compared to, say, Call of Cthulhu, which does chases as well, and I'm like, I can't, again, because it's a different system, it's a different game, I understand that, but like something about this, I'm like, damn, I have to, if they get away, that's really bad for me, and for
it's really good.
Yes.
No, they're like, and they're so like, I just moving on to the aerial vehicle one. The silver one, the lightning strikes one, is one that I always like come to as well. Like the prey or the pursuer is hit, equal chance eats. The spinner loses all power. The driver must make a tech roll to reboot the spinner system and prevent a crash. Even so you've got this. You can have this moment, and it's like chase. You've been doing maneuvers. You've done this obstacle. Your lights go out. You're spinning. Make a tech roll, and you can feel the tension in the air, because you can all imagine it. You can all see how it's going to be working, the beep, 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 beep sounds going off and stuff like that. And you're like quickly doing your tech roll. You get it started, it kicks onto gear, make another roll. Like, it feels dramatic, quick, energetic, which is like hard to find in lots of role-playing games. And I feel like this gives you tables. It's quick. The cards, if you can get them and you're in person, fantastic. Like really fun.
Yeah, I think my final thing is that compared to say normal combat, you're like, well, I'm good at a gun, I'm good at this. Here, it feels like it is more desperate, and it's just luck that you have to do
it should be.
And it should be. And that's what makes me excited, because I am not the best min-maxer. I'd be like going like, well, I need to run this person down, but I'm slow, I'm old on the force, or like I don't have the strength, and I just all about it. Just whoo. Yeah.
But want that because you want the fate to be involved, because that's what it should be. And that's what you always feel like in that moment. Like the crowd parts and you lost them. And that's it. That's it. Crap. Like you've actually lost them. Or like it happens at the right moment, down on the ground, we've got them, and like, that's it, we've captured them, and then suddenly you're like, someone comes in and there's another obstacle or something like that, and you're like, oh no, we've lost them last minute, or we've captured them, we've actually got the person we need to get to, now we've got a clue, the clue would be like trying to get, and I think, it's kind of like, it should feel that drastic, because that's what it is.
Like, I feel like you could recreate in that original Blade Runner film where Deckard's following that person and he shoots them and they go through the glass. I can just see that like played out bit for bit using the system. And it's very rare I say that. Like, it feels, again, I'm going to keep going on with that. It feels cinematic, but I can imagine you doing a similar sequence and go, bloody hell, that was so cool. Awful, terrible, but really cool. And yeah, I get, as you can tell, I'm already pumped to like, when can we do this? So
yes. 100%.
I'll be interested to see if they do any more expansions for it. It's interesting how since we last spoke about the One Ring, they're putting out so many more expansions for it and stuff like that, because there's a wealth of, obviously, from J.R.R. Tolkien and stuff like that, but there hasn't been anything other than this Replicant Rebellion book that was sort of kickstarted last year. And I don't know if, again, maybe people aren't as interested, or again, maybe it's like you said, it's the IP behind it perhaps, but I feel now that this could be my kick over into detective mysteries. Next year could be like the year of Fiona being a Blade Runner. I don't know. You know what I mean?
I mean, what, we had that idea of Luskin 2077. But I didn't. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
We could like do the whole like but no. But I totally think like, I'd love to run it again. I really enjoyed it. I think it, but I'd love to be a player in it though. That's the thing. I'd love to have someone do all the hard work, and then I just get to be the detective.
I think what's interesting is that you could easily be you could rotate people quite easily, because you could play like, okay, say you ran the first one and then there's a group of people. Next case, it's somebody else running it, but then you're a new character because people move in and out and stuff like that. So yeah,
I think actually, you know what? That's a bloody great thing, because you could, if you were like, again, you could even make it like have them link, have the stories link. Yeah, and have the different, maybe even the different aspects of it. If you could make a wider story that has, like, even using seems to be a wider story in this, which is the idea of like the replicants kind of trying to rise up against the sort of like the sort of persecution that they kind of have at this time, and that being like, and the element of them trying to find their humanity within it, is like something that you could like take different stories of. Because again, I talked about this in our last episode, I believe, when I was talking about like session zeros and playing games, just doing something that's like, don't get into your main campaign, even if you're like doing this at home. This is just like, just before you commit to a character for 5 years, if you're going to do a home game or something like that for a long time, having like a little mini adventure beforehand is like a really fun thing. And I did one based in a pachinko place, right, with Stuart and Chloe, where it was like there was a small investigation. They had to go to this pachinko place that was supposedly just like, there's reports of like potentially like they're up to some nefarious activities in the back room, and they kind of know about it, but they're more just like kind of interested in like finding out some information from them. Just like, we know you do some stuff. What do you know about this new drug that seems to be on the market? What do you know about it? We kind of know what you're up to, like you're selling some stuff, but like what's going on? And then when they're there, like everyone gets all shady and is like not wanting to let them go back into the back room. And so it was like, well, we've always been there. It's like, yeah, another time, sort of thing. Like trying to like move it away from it, and then it's like, well, what's going on? And now it actually turns out like the person, one of the people that's like I was going to use later in the game, was in the back room, sort of thing. So it gave them like a link to it, which was kind of fun.
Very fun.
But it was like a way. But it was just like a little like I think it was a. I'm just going to put another thing down to like. You could do little things like that, little vignettes or whatever, if you want to start, as in a wider story.
Yeah,
it'd be a great. I really think that's a great idea.
I love vignettes. I always think opening title sequences, something that Blades 68 did, where basically you describe like, say like the city of LA, one of the things, and then you go, where do we find your character, and it's just like a moment from that opening title sequence that you see on the Netflix show, and then you're cool, and then you go to something else. It's one of my favorite. Blade 68 is another one we should look at some point, because I think the vibes of it are immaculate, but that introduced the opening title sequence.
Blades in the Dark or something, or is it?
Yeah, so it's a setting for Blades in the Dark, whereby so the original Blades in the Dark. I'll keep this very short because obviously this is not a Geo's book club about Blades in the Dark, but it's set in like a Victorian Gothic, steampunk-esque type setting, and there's ghosts, classic. But then Blade 68 is it's the same setting but 100 years from now, so it's the swinging 60s, and it introduced this idea of like, how do you start a session or do it as if it's the title sequence of a TV show? And what it made the GM could do is that you could obviously not flash forward, but that you can mention certain areas like quickly, like places that they might not see at all, but like, I'm gonna drop in these particular scenes of like, this person's character getting beat up, as if it's like what's the word, foreshadowing something that's going to happen in the game or the scenario or something like that. So again, I just thought it was such a cool idea, and you could do the exact same thing here if you didn't want to start off like especially if you're doing lots of little mini like one shots or scenarios on that. And then just to go back to that rotating GM thing, I think what could be really interesting is that, not only could you rotate, obviously, players, but you could rotate what characters they play.Maybe we have a whole department, and maybe it's like, oops, all fixers again, or oops, all analysts, and see what a quiet night,
why not?
A quiet night, that sort of night shift thing, and then so much you can do. Sorry, I get very excited. This is us getting excited about stories that we will never be able to tell because we are too busy. But yeah,
it's so true. It's so true. No, there's a lot to this. It's kind of like, it's really good.
Yeah, I think out of all the Free League stuff that we've mentioned in this small part of the GM's book club, I do think the typical we've left the best to last, because even I remember when I was listening to you guys playing it and obviously trying to do the edit as we were going along, and I was like, damn, what a cool idea and just interesting because of that focus on the narrative with the characters. And I think, like I said, only needs little tweaks and stuff like that. And maybe it's just because I find the source material more interesting than some of the other IPs and stuff like that. And maybe because there isn't that big focus necessarily on combat. Like, obviously, combat is still a part of it, but it's not it's not like the be all or end all because of the chasers as well. So, really good. Whoa, Hamilton, we did it. We read through Blade Runner. People should go get the starter set and play their own games.
I think that's the takeaway from it. I think the starter set is definitely the thing to get. If you want,
I agree.
They're not cheap.
No.
And I think that's the one to get to spend your money on.
I think so. Yeah. And like you said, I think because a lot of Free League stuff doesn't necessarily have, if you get the core book, it doesn't necessarily have a mission within it. Like Alien does now, but like you said, the Blade Runner is how you make your own. But if you wanted like a quick one to run through, it is much easier just to get, like you said, the starter set, because you get those props and stuff as well. Well, Hamilton, we've come to the end, obviously, of this section of the GS book club, because we don't currently have one going to read next. But I've enjoyed reading RPGs with you and talking about them excitedly or less excitedly, and so we'll definitely carry on with this series and stuff. But what I was going to say is that if anyone's listening it's like, oh, you should read this RPG next, is to come into our Discord or send us an email and be like, recommend some RPGs. Because, like I said, we've tried our best with this series to try and do different RPGs, even though we did end up doing 2 Free League ones. But I think we honestly, I love being suggested things that are not only from big publishers, but also from indie RPGs as well. So yeah, I was wanted to welcome people to come to the Discord. The link will be in the show notes. And email as well, the DM's book club at gmail.com to just any recommendations of stuff that you'd like to hear us chat rubbish about, really, and be like, this is really good.
Ideas I have on the table, which I don't think I haven't discussed this with Fiona, so they don't take these as read.
Here we go.
But I think in my mind, ones that I think are interesting at the moment, but don't mean they're difficult, is Doomsong. I think it's on my list.
Doomsong, yes, because there's 2 Doom-related games that have come out. There's Doom Scroll and Doomsong, but Doom
Spiral.
Doom Spiral. Oh my god, I made up a third one there. Doomsong. Yeah.
I've actually got a really small one, which is called Heavy Weighs the Crown, which is
I've
like
heard of that
a little pamphlet one, which is by the same people as Artifact. And
Jack Harrison. Yes, I've played Artifact. Yes.
Yeah, and so that's one where it's like instead of playing a sword, you play a crown that lives through monarchies, and you talk about the monarchies and the rise and fall of a dynasty.
That sounds a lot of fun. Maybe that one could be like a double, because I don't know if you've read Artifact, because I've played it, and that's making
it a long time ago, because I bought it when I heard about it. I thought it was very cool.
So maybe that could be a cool comparison piece. Absolutely, we're workshopping ideas right now, but obviously, what I said was
to see behind the curtain on that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Do you have any more suggestions, Ham?
No, those are the 2 that I had on my plate at the moment. That was it. I didn't have any more, but I think they're very fantasy heavy, so it'd be good. I think we've done pretty well at mixing fantasy and sci-fi.
The one I was going to suggest to you, just to Uno Reverso, again, the audience can't see this, but I'm looking at my big shelf of books, and the one that I can see standing out to me is Slug Blaster, which is basically the skateboarding one, which is a little bit sci-fi as well, but also teen angst everywhere. Another powered by the Blades in the Dark, Forge in the Dark game. So
I think Blades in the Dark has got to be on that list a little bit, because you've run it. I've read it. It's a good book. I think there's a lot of interesting things in it. Let me have a look at my. I can't even. I've got so blinded by the lights.
I know. I was going to say I can see you going.
I can't see anything. I think I can't see anything that's like quickly enough. We haven't actually done Morkborg, and we talk about it all the time.
We should probably put Morkborg on the list as well. I'm putting it on. I'm just writing these down, and like you said, we're not beholden to these, but it's good to have.
Beholden to these, but I think definitely people put your thoughts out as to which ones that would be really good. And I think it'd be really nice to have ones that maybe that aren't as talked about, because we've talked about some ones that are quite talked about. I would suggest. I don't think Blade Runner has been really pushed out there, but I think what I'm really interested in seeing, what I love about Blade Runner particularly, and I liked about the Free League ones, is like the other Free League one of the One Ring, of really thematic, that would be great for all games. As I said, this is really great for teaching you detective stories. I think if anyone's got out there this has got a system that maybe the game isn't the best game, but what it does have is this system which I take everywhere I go, and those are the kind of things I think are really, really interesting. So
well, then in that case, the one that instantly comes to mind, because I've read it recently again, is Bluebeard's Bride, which is I think that would be my suggestion for kind of fantasy horror. And again, I just think it's some really I've seen it being used in a podcast. A hack of it used in a podcast, which I think worked mostly, but the players didn't get on board with it, and I was very cross as a result. So that's, but I think you'd enjoy reading that through. And it's a strange enough game. But I tell you what, we could continue this conversation off podcast. Audience, you heard our thoughts, but again, as I said, feel free to let us know in the Discord or send us an email about any recommendations, because we're up for season 2 of the ongoing GM's book club, as it were.
Yes, indeed.
All right. Well, I think that's everything. That's it, isn't it? Yeah. All we have to say is,
we will see you on the
next side of the page. The flip side of the page. Fuck! I got it wrong. Never mind.
The end. Bye.
The end. Bye.